All right, I'm here with my man Chango, obviously famous for being a head honcho with the Yellow Top crew back in the Gap in New York. How's everything been, brother?
Everything's everything, man. One day at a time, making the best out of whatever set my way.
Man, I really and thoroughly enjoyed the documentary on Tuesday, Trust the Lords. When you rehashing a lot of these stories, does it get easier? Does it get tougher? Or is it just part of the lifestyle you lived?
Well, to tell you the truth, bro, it doesn't get any easier. But I'm hoping that at some point it could serve in some way therapeutic in some sense. So that's what I get out of it.
No, without a doubt, man. Part of because when anyone hears, you're indicted on 10 homicides and 14 attempted murders, when anyone hears that, they think automatically you're an evil person, a bad person. But you kind of see it a little different. You kind of saw it as survival. Could you just kind of go in depth with that?
Well, I often say that the only thing I'm an expert at is in survival. Those occurrences, as tragic as they were transactional. They weren't personal. They were business-related issues or quarrels that ended up in the worst possible outcome. But definitely years later, regret is a hard thing to live with, and that's the hard life that I live with. Because now I would deal with those situations differently if I were involved in that kind of lifestyle. Fortunately for me, I'm not, but I still have a lot of regret about those things. Those decisions that were made were final, but we keep living, and I don't want nobody to kill nobody I love, so I gotta definitely accept responsibility and know that I changed some lives around. Still, 20 years later, 30 years later, I see family members that are still suffering the loss of a member that lost their life because of a drug war that I was involved in. Mm-hmm. So, it's still something I carry with. A lot of people tell me, get over it, forgive yourself, it's the past, but I just accept that as just words that people throwing at me thinking that it serves some kind of anecdotic cure, but it doesn't.
Given the fact that you had money on your head and bounties on you and hitmen were sent your way, are you, I don't want to say surprised, but the fact that you're living to tell your story, what does that mean to you?
That God is good. That's the only sense I can make out of it. There was a time where I thought it's because, I got it down packed and I'm a master of the game. I survived 3 attempts on my life on the street, one in prison, in Sing Sing, where I was held by 2 other people stabbing me. But now I know, I know better. It's not because I was so smart. It was not because I was so swagged out. It's because God is good.
When I interviewed you, I think it was 2020, 2021, I asked you how would you like to be remembered, and you said the guy that made a change. Would that be your current answer, or has that answer changed?
No, I'm still pursuing the change. I'm continuously letting go in order to elevate. I'm continuously putting good things out into the universe in order to pave a new path. So it may sound like a modest or humble answer, but it's still my answer. Change is good for everybody, and without change, we perish the same way. If you continue to do evil until you're dead and gone, what could you expect afterwards? Right? Yep. And if you continue to do evil in the daytime, but at nighttime you're asking God for forgiveness, I don't know how that works. Really, I'm not privy to that kind of intel to know. But if I know people that are still the same. Me personally, I don't go around them. Now I know there's a distinction now. I know the difference. And I'd rather be on the good side than the bad side. I don't even want my son to meet people that are like I was. You get that?
Yes, absolutely. I'm glad you said that, actually, because it's out there now. And it's a crazy part, Chango, is I never thought there would be a day where even as prominent as the internet got, that gangsters and ex drug dealers and hitmen, I've interviewed Sammy the Bull and you and Brian Glaze Gibbs, all these people. I never thought there would be a day where there would be a platform for you guys to tell this story. However, I think these stories are so important. Did you ever think when you were in Rikers or on the streets doing your thing that you would even be rehashing these stories?
I didn't even know what the internet was.
Wow.
I didn't even know the internet was possible. I still wonder how this is possible. You talk about things and your phone is off, or your phone is in your pocket. You talk about certain things when you put your phone in your hand. Those things are on the screen. I still don't understand how these things are possible. But the answer is no. I never thought that. I never assumed that I would be speaking publicly about the worst things that I've done. I didn't even know that I would have the courage in the future to discuss those things that were done in the dark to the whole world and its light. So I'm still amazed by it. I do it cautiously because I don't want to be coming off like I am glorifying a lifestyle that I absolutely despise now having had, no matter what the circumstances were, because honestly, there were people that were in worse situations than I was, and my people were, that have never made the choices that we made and are responsible for the violence. They just continue to live without seeking the richness that we were, and without committing the crimes that we were, and without inflicting the pain and the violence that we did. And some of those people I still know and see. And, they took the slow route. But we all here at the same time, and they don't have to wear or carry the regret that is so hard to live with. People can see you dressed up nice. They can see you living in a nice house. They can see you driving a nice car. But when you look in the mirror, you know you like nobody else knows you. And you know what you regret or what's hurting you or what pains you and the things that you wish that you had not done that you did do. You could walk into a supermarket in my neighborhood, and if you're responsible for this violence, you're going to run into somebody's mother, somebody's sister, somebody's brother, somebody's kid. And it's difficult to make eye contact with people who you devastated through your actions for money that you no longer have. So it's sometimes it's still raw.
What would be the dollar amount that you would put on the amount of money you've seen come and go?
I have no idea, man. I've never been able to answer that question in more than a dozen interviews.
Wow.
I have no idea. The thing is, we were smart enough to make a whole lot of money, right? But we weren't financially intelligent or prudent, right? So we made money and take care of our responsibilities, but also to spend, just to spend, so that the police can't get it when they came, because that was the inevitable. But it was nothing to spend money on one car after the other, on a motorcycle. One time I bought a motorcycle, I fell, and because I was embarrassed in front of a couple of chicks, I gave the motorcycle away that day to somebody that was standing there, right?
Wow.
So 4 days later, I went and bought another one. Reckless, buy a 325i convertible, but then didn't want to use that in the winter, so bought a 525. BMW. So it's just spending money, women, jewelry, bails, lawyers, apartments, vacations, clothes, just spending, thinking we have a perpetual 24-hour a day ATM, which is the block or the hole in the wall. And there's no way to succeed, even if you're making money, if you're just spending it. Or you just saving some for the lawyer or for bails. But if you're not investing it, it's depreciating. The dollar depreciates daily at times.
With the internet, there are some people that still treat you as if, because unfortunately in the hood, we treat the gangsters like heroes. And with the prevalence of the internet, there are people that hold you in high regard or treat you like a hero. Or they'll meet you and act like you were, a figure that people should admire. How do you balance that? How do you balance telling your truth with not glorifying it while at the same time not coming off as, rude or disrespectful when someone approach you like Chango, man, Yellow Top Crew? You got to push it to the side, but at the same time, you can't be a jerk about it. How do you balance that?
I self-deprecate. That's how I deal with that. You know, I try to be open book, discuss anything. Definitely discuss the differences between then and now. Meaning, I'm just an average person with the same amount of ambition but struggling. So I'd say that part that I'm struggling. I don't live off the past reputation. I'm constantly trying to establish a new one. And in doing that, I'm an average person like everybody else. So I don't take those kudos from the past as a compliment, because what a lot of people celebrating in reality are the worst things that I've ever done in my life.
That's crazy.
You know, and to that it may seem like something because there's a guy that made a bunch of money when he was young, but I don't look at it like that. I look at it now, and some of my own people don't appreciate that I look at it like I'm about to explain to you, but what sense does it make that for me and my family to be doing better, that we completely rob everybody else's family of what they got? Not literally through a robbery, but through an addiction. So your refrigerator is empty and so is everybody else's, but mine's is full. And your kids are wearing fucked up clothes, but I'm wearing the latest design. And you don't have a vehicle to move around in for family trips because your father's spending his money on my yellow tops, but I'm moving around in a couple of vehicles and a couple of motorcycles. So if you look at the neighborhood, if you stand on the roof, sort of, or if you take a drone view and you look at the neighborhood in those times, you see all these parents, literally sometimes buying their kids Christmas presents, and their kids will open the Christmas presents, but come midnight and the kids are asleep, the same parents will be outside selling them gifts. Especially if they're electronics, right? They'll be outside selling those gifts for crack. And when the kids get up in the morning, they'll blame it on a burglary or something happened. But that's, back then people look at that like nothing. It's just a part of the game, right? But moving forward, you look at that like a disgrace. You are literally robbing everybody for their money, their food stamps, even their integrity through an addiction that they have to your yellow tops. Get it?
Great explanation. That's an absolute great explanation.
Disgusting. And then after they don't have anything left, if they're females, they're getting robbed because they're being used sexually. So what else could you take from them after that? So because of my personal experiences precisely with that, as far as my sister, I can't look at those things the same way. And nothing really changes. The game don't change, just the players. So I could be doing the same thing again anywhere. You spin the bottle and pick a state. But I rather struggle than to continue with that kind of lifestyle. I'm blessed to have made it out of that, and there ain't no way I would walk back into that. Hell to the door.
We've always talked about rappers and actors for whatever reason, loving street figures, obviously because most of them talk about what you guys were doing. Merlin Santana, who's famous for the Steve Harvey Show and some other movies that he was a part of. He actually there's a shout out he gives the Yellow Top Crew in a freestyle that's on YouTube. He was enamored by you guys' lifestyle. Was that always kind of weird to you? Guys that made it wanted to kind of be in your shoes.
Super weird, specifically with him, since we were cool like that, and we spent time together. There was back when there were VHS tapes. There was a video of him in one of our apartments, one of the packaging apartments for Yellow Top, of him smoking weed, and the fellas would make fun of him, saying they're gonna send it to the media. And he would get nervous, like, "No, stop playing." But it was all a joke. But I wish I still had that video. Now he would come from Cali, and he would have the back seat of his BMW littered with a few scripts that he was reading, right? And he would park it on the block and maybe borrow my car to drive around. And obviously he just wanted to let people know he's cool like that with us up the block, right? and he just be knocking people out, or he'll go steal a car and bring it back to the neighborhood. And he was just constantly trying to show us that just because he's in Cali, that he's not no different than us. But he was very different than us, in my opinion. Very talented, very smart, very privileged. And unfortunately, everybody knows he was killed over a lie that a broad told. But he was on his way to, being on top. He had a lot of things going. He could rap, he could sing, he can act. He had a promising career. He started to make movies. He did one with Eddie Murphy and Robert De Niro called Showtime. He did a few others. He was on his way to move out of the TV series and TV shows into the big screen when his life was cut short. But what he was going through, I've seen it in other people too. Some people that are in a great position somehow are infatuated with the street, and they ready to trade their good life for the bad life, not knowing that most of us don't want the life that we had. We was just good at what we were doing and kept doing it, but they don't necessarily mean that it was a good thing. They ain't no good, and you worried about the police 24 hours a day, and you carrying a gun on you every day, and you worried about your life, worried about freedom. None of that is good. And the life of a drug dealer is similar to that of the drug addict. Let us not find no coke to sell. See if we don't start scratching and twitching, because it's an addiction on both sides. The making of the money and the spending of the money in order to get high.
How did you replace 15 years and 8 months that you did away in prison? How do you come out and replace that, or is that just time is something you never get back and you just had to move forward?
Begrudgingly move forward. Nah, you never get that back. I've tried and tried and tried. My Gatuma's brother constantly tells me, as far as the ladies, that I have already made up for the time that I was gone, right? But you don't never make up for it. There's no way to make up for it. There's a permanent gap between you and close relatives, since you were apart from that for that long. Maybe siblings, maybe whomever you have that was close to you, and maybe they couldn't be on the regular basis visiting you, or maybe they weren't on the phone with you. You outgrow people. You stop knowing people. You become estranged to people. So there's no way to make up for it. And I'm still paying for it every time I get a job, and suddenly I'm fired because of my past record from 37 years ago. Wow. You're still paying for it. You're fired again. You start a new job, you get together, you got your stuff going. Before you could get a vacation, you didn't let go because of your past criminal history. Over and over again. I've been in 3 lawsuits already for wrongful termination. I have one pending right now for the last 29 months. But it's hard, you get yourself going, you start buying. In my case, I started buying houses to flip, and then you're getting fired, and you no longer have a job, you no longer have access to loans. You don't have access to loans, you can't flip homes. So it's constantly, you get to a certain point where you climb, and somebody's kicking you in your ass, and you're falling down a steep hill, only to have to start over again. Start with a new job. Got to build that work history. You got to try to fix your credit all over again. You got to then try to get another loan over and over again, starting over. It's kind of like a nightmare, to be honest with you, bro.
Man.
As far as I'm concerned, in my experience.
Before I let you go, bro, I know you're working on some things. I believe you're thinking about even writing a book or publishing a book.
Yeah, I'm working on that.
If you had to say right now, how does Chango's story end? Is it just telling your stories through publications and documentaries? If you had your way, perfect life, how does your story end?
Well, I never heard of a perfect life, but my story's gonna end with a whole lot of redemption. The success that I'm after is not to accomplish the things I accomplished before, as far as women, cars, jewelry. That I'm trying to help other people. I'm trying to make change. The example and the evidence of that is, so far, I've been able to assist and help with 9 exonerations of people who are in prison. Right, so I'm still on top of that. I'm still currently helping people. I recently had an interview with the Bronx District Attorney's Integrity Unit in order to help with an exoneration of another gentleman. And those are the things that I'm doing. I don't get no money out of it, but I feel good because I'm still helping the people that were like me and who are in the places that I've been. I would like also to continue to flip homes. For me, having been homeless for a large part of my life, it's satisfying to be able to get the ugliest house on the block, fix it, sell it, and months later walk by and see that there's a couple living in it, or a year goes by, I walk by and now they have a child, and they're living and creating life in a place that I created. A person who was homeless and in prison for a third of his life. So those are the things that bring me joy, the exonerations and building homes. And I'm satisfied with those things. I live a modest life. And, the things that I did before are constantly on my mind. So I use them to keep me in place,
Definitely.
I'm working as a producer on my series, which you mentioned is on Tubi, called Trust the Lords. I got a few other series that I'm working on and trying to bring to light. I'm trying to get meetings constantly. I've exhausted ways to try to reach out to people in position like 50 Cent who could open the gate for me, but that my arms ain't that long. I haven't been able to reach him. Maybe he'll read your article. Maybe he'll read your article and maybe something will go on in that regard.
Well, Chango, bro, look, despite your past or whatever you've done, you've always been a good brother to me, man. And I know that this change that you're pursuing, you're full head of steam, man. So I know good things will come from it for you, brother. Always
Hey,
a pleasure to speak to you, man. Anything before I let you go, Chango?
Hey man, yeah, I'm hoping to soon, maybe the next 30 days, I have a series of articles coming out and with a prominent publication, and in those articles I'll be discussing what I discussed with you in our last text with you regarding some corrupt cops and some corruption that occurred in my case and in other cases that I'm actively helping out with. That will help maybe 1,000 people with freedom.
That's awesome.
And I'm not putting that number out the air. That's the number that I was told by the Integrity Unit.
Wow.
The Integrity Unit is a unit that's supposed to reinvestigate old convictions for any corruption. And I didn't get to be a lawyer, but I'm still doing some lawyer work.
It's never too late, brother. Well, I appreciate you as always, bro, and best of luck with all your endeavors, man. You got a lot going on, bro.
Thank you, brother. Take care. Stay in touch.
You too, brother.